We are here, and TCU's here. That's for sure. Uh, Undefeated. I did catch the game against SMU pretty much every play. Big day for Eric McAllister in particular. I'm counting 3 touchdowns, and I believe he had a ball taken out of his hands in the end zone for an interception, and he really probably did catch another touchdown pass.
He was
That
robbed. ACC officials,
Yeah,
call him
he was
out.
robbed. There you go. Could have had 5 touchdown passes, so
Yeah.
a huge day for him, and of course, Josh Hoover with a nice day as well, with over 5 touchdown passes for him. So talk a little SMU. That had to feel good after giving up 66 to those guys last year.
Yeah, I mean, this was the final game that is on the schedule for the Iron Skillet rivalry, a rivalry that's over 100 years old. If you're going to have a rivalry game end, you want that trophy to stay on your side of town. So I think it meant a lot to TCU. Obviously, there's SMU having their coach that brought them back out of the death penalty come over to Fort Worth, and SMU obviously put on a clinic a season ago, and so for TCU to get that win and to kind of have to gut it out and grit it out a little bit, I think was huge. And at the end of the day, they're 3-0. They finished their preseason undefeated. They're one of only 2 teams in the country to play 11 Power 4 games, and they've won their first 2. So not the prettiest game, not the best game I've seen TCU play, but Eric McAllister made 2 massive plays late. We saw Jamel Johnson pick off 2 balls after Kevin Jennings had a near perfect 3.5 quarters, but Johnson made 2 great plays. So it's really hard to be great every week, I think, in college football, but you want your team to be really good when it counts, and TCU played a really great fourth quarter, and that was fun to see.
Yeah, now it's always difficult to pinpoint what are going to be the biggest games in this conference because it's so even. But this one hit me, and about 2 minutes before I DM'd you on Twitter, because I thought, man, okay, we got this one on Friday night. This is a good one. TCU, Arizona State on the road. Of course, Sun Devils got tripped up outside the conference, but within the Big 12, obviously, we're just getting started. So this is a game I don't think we saw last year, correct?
No, this will be TCU and Arizona State's first time playing. I looked this up for my show on Sunday night. I'm pretty sure it was 1935. So either 1935 or 55. So it's been a while. Arizona State got that first one. So a little time for some revenge, hopefully, for the Horned Frogs Friday night.
All right. It's been a while coming, but this one of these new matchups in the Big 12, and this one, should be a really good one. So based on what you've seen out of the Horned Frogs the first 3 weeks, obviously you made the trip to Chapel Hill to check out the enormous win against North Carolina after giving up a touchdown. Then it was all TCU from there. Then the kind of week off against Abilene Christian, then this big win against SMU. So based on what you were expecting out of this team, now that we're a quarter of the way through the regular season, what's sizing up in what departments in meeting expectations versus maybe some concerns?
Yeah, I mean, Josh Hoover's good. He's really good. He's potentially elite. I think it's almost inarguable at this point that he's a top 5 quarterback in college football. I mean, he's certainly the most underrated quarterback in college football. He's put up 3 consecutive really incredible performances. And even when he was not his sharpest on Saturday, I mean, he did not look like the Josh Hoover we saw against UNC and ACU, against the best pass rush he's faced. But he wasn't super sharp, and you look up and all of a sudden he's got 374 yards and 5 touchdowns. So Eric McAllister helped him out a lot, with those 2 big, long breakaways. But Hoover has been really good. The offensive line has held up in pass protection, I think, really well. SMU is the first team to really get to Hoover and cause him to move. But Kendall Briles did something with Hoover we have not seen in his 2.5 years as a starter, and that was unleash his legs. We saw him run for a first down on a 4th and 4 early in the game. We saw him scramble to find open throws down the field. The first touchdown to McAllister, that was on a scramble and a kind of a broken play. And he used his feet really well to evade pressure when he needed to, and just kind of went toe-to-toe with Kevin Jennings, who is one of the most dynamic players in college football and probably played his most accurate game of his career on Saturday against TCU. So I think the offenses look good. There's some question marks in the running game. Trent Battle came in and he was really solid. Jeremy Payne and Nate Palmer have had some good runs. John Denman's a true freshman, but according to the injury report that was coming out just kind of right before we started recording, Kavorian Barnes is going to miss a second straight game at Arizona State, and he's been kind of the downhill runner and the chain mover of this unit. A transfer portal kid out of UTSA that was incredible his freshman year and then kind of struggled through injuries and not being fully right the last 2 seasons. So that's a big loss for TCU offensively. There's just not that kind of hit the hole and go guy with Barnes out. So it'll be interesting to see, schematically what they do against a really, really good front four at Arizona State and a really good linebacking core. But I'd say the offense is the thing I'm least worried about because Hoover and McAllister and Dwyer and Manjack, is playing with no socks, no gloves. I was shocked he has a helmet on sometimes. I mean, each of those guys has had a 100-yard game this season. So the offense seems to really be clicking. Defensively, I still have some questions. The pass rush, I think, hasn't been super elite without the blitz. They were without Zachary Chapman on Saturday. Let me look. I should have checked that. I do not see him listed on the injury report going, so he should be back. That's huge for the Frogs. The linebacking core has been solid, if not spectacular. But I have a lot of faith in Caleb Elarm-Zor, and Nnamdi Obiezar has been around forever. So those guys are really just fundamentally sound. And then the secondary we thought would be a great strength. Give credit to Kevin Jennings, who threw in tight windows and was super accurate. But we've seen both ACU and SMU kind of have moments of having great success against that TCU secondary. So I think there's another gear for that unit to take. Channing Canada got dinged up a little bit as far as he gave up some big plays. Avery Helm is going to be out again on Friday. He's barely played this season. So that's probably my biggest question mark defensively is can they bother Sam Levitt, another really mobile, athletic quarterback, and can they prevent the big plays, especially when you look across the line of scrimmage and know Jordan Tyson's going to be out there. So I don't think we've seen TCU secondary play its best of what they're capable of playing. I wouldn't say they've been bad, but I think there's another level where they can really step it up in conference play.
The latest best game in the Big 12, Arizona State taking on TCU Friday night. Melissa Triebwasser, you can catch her work on Dave Campbell's College Football. And since we got you here, and obviously we just stepped into conference play, had some good games. Arizona State with a walk-off against Baylor last weekend was a big one. Iowa State off to a good start. What are your initial impressions of the Big 12?
I mean, I don't understand why people crap on this conference, to be frank. I know it's not the SEC, I know it's not the Big Ten, but when you look at the caliber of quarterback play that we've seen, when you look at the fun games that we've had, when we look at what they've done outside of conference play, how successful the Big 12 has been, this is a really fun college football conference. This is what it's supposed to be like, where literally any team can go into any stadium and win on any given Saturday, with the exception maybe of Oklahoma State, but that's a whole other show. Poor Pokes. Hey, but shout out to Doug Meacham, interim coach. Nobody deserves that opportunity more than Doug. TCU fans obviously super fond of Meach and what he did for TCU throughout the year. So excited for him. But yeah, I mean, I think it's still a really wide open race. I think you have to say that Texas Tech kind of separated themselves with what they did at Utah this past weekend and what they spent. Their defense might be the best in the conference, which seems almost sacrilegious to say about the Red Raiders, but they're really good. They still need to be tested more. We're still in the point where we don't know, is Utah good and Texas Tech, really ran away from them in the fourth quarter, or does Utah still have some question marks but beyond Dampier? And we don't know yet, but Tech is good. Iowa State probably has one of the best wins of the season with what they did in Ireland and what they did to Iowa. I mean, that's a really good team that's well coached, has a veteran quarterback, and has some dogs on defense once again. Arizona State, I mean, this TCU-Arizona State game is going to be a separator, I think, in the league as well. And people have kind of written off Kansas, but, outside of what happened at Missouri where they just kind of fell apart late, Kansas has played pretty well and looked pretty dominant. So there's a lot of good teams. I think BYU, we can't write them off. Obviously, they're playing a freshman quarterback. And so we'll see, TCU, we'll see them in November. But, when I looked at the schedule at the beginning of the season and what I thought were going to be the scariest games for TCU, none of those look quite as scary as they did back in August, at Kansas State. Obviously, I'm not going to put anything past that team. That's a well-coached unit. But this Arizona State game will tell us a lot about both teams, I think. And I think you can elevate the winner of this game to kind of that third position, maybe behind Texas Tech and Iowa State when it comes to making a trip to Arlington.
And when you said Josh Hoover is one of the top 5 quarterbacks in college football, Melissa, I wasn't ready to fight with you at all because I did a quick scan and I'm like, yeah, he is. But I thought about the chat, and I thought if I got on here before you jumped on here and said, everybody name your top 5 quarterbacks in college football, there'd be people scratching their head going, man, I can't put Cade Klubnik in there or Drew Aller in there. They've not been good this year. Who am I going to put in there? And most people wouldn't give too many quarterbacks in the Big 12 a shot. But yeah, I'm running through the list. And this kid that stepped in at Texas Tech, Will Hammond, on Saturday, he can sling it.
He's pretty good. He's pretty good. Now he also gave it away against TCU in Fort Worth a season ago in a similar situation. But he's a redshirt freshman. Like, yeah, I think Hammond's going to be good. And I don't know, Joey McGuire is going to be in a really interesting position depending on how long Baron Morton is out. With what do you do? Like, Morton has been there. He's fought through so many injuries, but he can't stay healthy. He can't make it through a full season. Meanwhile, you've got this young quarterback that I'm assuming you paid a lot of money for, who has all the talent in the world. But when you're trying to win a championship and all the pressure on the world is on you to win a championship and you've got the schedule you've got, do you just take that risk of going with the young, unproven guy, or do you try to force the veteran down your throat? I mean, Tech's schedule is incredibly soft based on what we know about the Big 12 now and based on what we thought we knew about the Big 12 going into the season. Anything short of getting to Arlington is going to be a massive failure, not even a disappointment for that program when you consider the investment that Cody Campbell and others have made. So that's going to be an interesting one. But, when you talk about the Big 12 and how underrated the quarterbacks are, I mean, you've got Sam Leavitt, who nearly beat Texas. Now, got a lot of help from Cam Scatterby, who obviously that offense is missing that guy, and we've seen what he's doing for the Giants now and how good he is. But Dan Pierre's a guy who's got some skins on the wall and looked pretty good at times. He's got some adjustments to make. Baird Bachmeier has come in as a freshman, and BYU is undefeated right now. Have they played anybody? No. So we'll see. It's too early to make judgments. But there's a lot of talent. Even Sorsby at Cincinnati, like that team is playing a little bit better, I think, than we thought. It's going to be fascinating. But there's only one quarterback in the country who leads the country in yards and touchdowns, and that's Josh Hoover. And so I think if you put Josh Hoover in just about any other uniform, if you put him on any Big Ten team or any SEC team, people are talking about him as a Heisman candidate. It's just unquestionable. The throws that he's making, the plays that he's making. He as he said, that he threw a ball up to Eric McAllister late night game where he got hit and he threw it into triple coverage. And he said after the game, when asked about why he made that decision, he was like, I don't know. I think that was just the anointing of God on TCU that day, at that moment. So he just has that luck and that special sauce about him this year that kind of makes you feel like if it's like watching Baker Mayfield the last couple of weeks in the NFL, right? If he's got the ball and 2 minutes to go and it's a one-score game, you turn the TV off because you know what's going to happen. He's going to lead you down the field to the win, and that's kind of what Josh feels like right now. He's got a lot to prove. I think he has to make it to a Big 12 championship game to be considered one of the best quarterbacks in the country. But anybody who knows anything about quarterback play, that has watched this guy play, any of these analysts, any of these national guys, when you look at JT, I should remember this because he's from my hometown, JT O'Sullivan, former Jesuit great, what he does in his quarterback breakdowns on YouTube, like everybody that watches Josh play that knows about quarterback play goes, yeah, this is an elite college quarterback who has a chance to be a pro for sure. And so I hope that he gets a little bit more attention. But my favorite thing about him is he could care less. He just wants to play football, go fishing, go to class, and be a good teammate. Like, that's it. He does not care whatsoever.
Well, Melissa, when you mentioned a guy that kind of has something intangible there at the end of the ball game, I think of the guy that you had playing the position in 2022.
Yeah. Max Duggan was pretty good, one of those guys too. And I think that when you look at the leadership and the intangibles, Max, I mean, TCU's had a lot of those guys. Max, Andy Dalton was another one of those guys. I mean, you can go back for decades and think of those guys that just had that juice about them. And Josh is that same kind of leader. When you look at his offseason and Tennessee came and threw a big bag at him, they wanted him badly. And if Tennessee wanted him pretty badly, that probably tells you everything you need to know. He turned down more money to stay at TCU. I'm sure he got a little raise, and good for him, absolutely. Like, be what you're worth. But he could have left. He could have gone into a bidding war. He could have come back, and there was a couple players that left TCU that are playing for highly top 5 programs right now that did the same thing. He didn't try to say, you're going to have to match this. He just went to TCU and said, hey, this is what's been offered. And TCU, he didn't say he wanted more or he needed more, but TCU came back and said, this is what we can do for you. And he was like, yeah, I'm not leaving. I'm good. And he doesn't want to leave. He really believes in TCU. He's a local kid. Sonny Dykes believed in him way back when, and it's really special when you have somebody who you look at on the field and you say, this kid's really good, and you talk to off the field and you go, man, this is a kid I'm proud that wears the uniform of the school I went to. And I've had quite a few of those guys over the years.
So Melissa, before I let you go, since you're a go-to when it comes to big storylines in the Big 12 for me for a long, long time, obviously you've watched a lot of Mike Gundy teams hit the field, and we've seen this coming. But and he's had a great career, but man, forever we've been able to write in 8-4, 9-3 at minimum for this program. They just went to a Big 12 championship game in 2023. Now, granted, that wasn't the best team in the world to go to a Big 12 championship game, but still. And here we are, one season in 3 games. And last year's team, as you well know, brought back like 21 starters. Yeah. Ollie Gordon, the rushing champion, Alan Bowman, their starting quarterback, elite wide receivers. They were stacked to make another run in it, and they just fell apart. Is this simply him not adjusting to the NIL era? Because that seems to be the narrative, that that's simply the case, that he hasn't been able to adjust to the new era of college football.
I mean, we all lose our fastball, right, at some point in the other, and it's really interesting to watch kind of what happened at the end of the Gary Patterson era at TCU, to what happened with Mike Gundy in the end of his term at Oklahoma State, and then to watch what's going on with Dabo Swinney as well over at Clemson. And Dabo hasn't even been around that long. Dabo's still a young guy, like he told us last weekend, but at some point it change or die. Like, wasn't there a whole best-selling book written about that? Somebody made millions of dollars by selling books at the airport that just told you how to be better at life. I think I read it too, though, so I'm just as guilty. But yeah, I mean, like, I think it's not just that Mike Gundy refused to adapt to the era. I think it's also that Oklahoma State isn't necessarily this big cash cow. Everybody looks at the facilities and the investment that T. Boone Pickens made. They're kind of their wealthy benefactor, their Cody Campbell. And when T. Boone passed away, I don't know that anybody has stepped up to do that. Now, the question you can ask, it's a chicken and the egg argument. Are more people going to be willing to donate when Mike Gundy is out of the picture and they feel like they have somebody who kind of understands a new era of college football? Or is there no money coming in so that, and that's why Oklahoma State and Mike Gundy couldn't be successful. So I'm going to be fascinated to see who they target and what direction that they go. That is a program that has had so much success, but isn't necessarily a sleeping giant. That's a really difficult place to win if you don't have full rev share. There's not a huge talent pool in Oklahoma, and while you can certainly dial into DFW in the Texas area, you're competing against, now Houston, Texas Tech, TCU, Baylor, let alone Oklahoma, Texas A&M, and Texas as well. So it's a tough scene if you can't find a way to get that money. You're gonna have to pay kids. Stillwater's great. There's a lot of people that really that rave about it. I have a lot of former students there, but much like Texas Tech, you're probably having to overpay slightly to get people to choose Oklahoma State. And when OU and Texas left the conference, it looked like from the outside that TCU and Oklahoma State should be the two schools that immediately took advantage of those flagship schools leaving. TCU obviously took them a while to get back going, and Oklahoma State, made that first conference championship game and kind of fell off a cliff. So I'm going to be fascinated to see what they do. There's some really great group of 5 candidates in the state of Texas. I think DJ Kitty will get a look, certainly at that job. Will they call in for Kendall Briles, TCU's OC, who looks like an absolute just mastermind the way he's pulling strings in that offense? Maybe. Would they consider elevating somebody like Meach? I doubt it. I think they'll probably try to go a little bit younger, but you can win at Oklahoma State. The question is, can you get the buy-in that you're going to need to finance a roster at Oklahoma State, to finance that rev share?
All right, Melissa, while you're on your way out the door, kind of World of Sports, I see this comment here where he says TCU should be ranked. And
we are.
Oh, did they get ranked this week?
Number 24, yeah.
Okay. Well, you're going to like my rankings better. I just wanted to double check. I just want to get on your good side. I've got TCU at 18.
Wow. Okay. I'm not going to complain. I have no problem with TCU being at the bottom of the top 25 or right outside of it, because UNC is garbage. I mean, they're just awful. That is a terrible football team. I don't know what Jordan Hudson is doing. I mean, what Bill Belichick is doing on the sidelines there. That's just a bad team. It's poorly constructed. Gio Lopez isn't it. Like, I almost feel bad because that atmosphere was one of the coolest things I've ever experienced for the first 8 minutes of that game. And then Those fans deserve maybe slightly better. But, you know, and Abilene Christian, TCU looked pretty bad against the second half. And SMU, I mean, I think that's a team that can be really competitive in the ACC. They're not the same team they were a year ago, but I do think Kevin Jennings is an elite quarterback, so I do think TCU deserves credit for that. Listen, if you finish September 4-0, you're going to be a top 20 team. That's kind of the way I look at it. And then you get chances, you know, Colorado at home, at Kansas State, and Baylor. So like if you can get through that stretch and you can get to 6-1 or 7-1, you're going to be on the cusp of a Big 12 championship bid. And if you get to, I think this is a year where the conference could certainly have 2 playoff teams. If you've got 2 one-loss teams in Arlington, and the way things are playing out, Texas Tech at 12-0 is not an unreasonable expectation. And you could look at a one-loss TCU, a one-loss Arizona State, potentially a one-loss Baylor. I don't think they've lost the second. Yeah, they only have one loss against Arizona State. And Kansas State, like I said, could still figure it out once they get over the jet lag from Ireland that I think has plagued them for the last couple of weeks.
Baylor lost to Auburn.
Yes, that's right. So out of conference.
Yeah.
So they, I mean, there's still a lot of good teams in this conference, and teams that I think people will be interested in, and that's going to be the difference between a one bid or two big Big 12 is how many people care, and you're going to have potentially a Heisman candidate at TCU. If TCU's playing in Arlington, Hoover's probably a Heisman candidate. That's the way they get there. And Texas Tech caught everybody's attention this offseason. So if they lose a Big 12 championship game and they only have one loss or 2 losses, they're probably still getting into the playoffs. I mean, that would be my guess because I think people are very interested in seeing them there.
Melissa, let people know where to find your work.
Yeah, you can find me at @BeCoachMelissa on X, at Melissa Treba on Instagram. I do a lot of photography for Horned Frog Sports as well. And then, of course, the Frogs Insider podcast, part of the Dave Campbell's College Football Network, did a show this last week recapping SMU with Marshall Newhouse, former All-American, former NFL guy, does a lot of NFL radio, and just announced today is back on the call with TCU with Brian Estridge. So Marshall is someone that TCU fans love, and he's always incredible breaking down. So highly recommend you check that out on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Should be a good one on Friday night.